Hey everyone, I'm Larry Walsh, and this is Changing Channels. I've been hearing about managed services since I joined the channel a long time ago, back when George Bush was president. Actually, probably even before that. The managed services always had this aura of wonder around it. It solved so many issues that plagued the channel in terms of technology delivery, customer experience, cost structures, predictability, and profitability. This has always been the hallmarks of managed services. And it has been one of the big economic drivers of the channel for much of the last 25 years. And it has been reliable, but now it's under pressure. And it's been under pressure for the past couple of years. Um, Managed services, it's profitable, but not as profitable as it used to be. There's a lot of cost pressures that are hitting MSPs that is driving down their profitability and creating more uncertainty. And then you layer on top of that the advent and the infusion of artificial intelligence in the managed services and how it's changing the nature of how services are delivered in these businesses are structured. Yeah, it's a lot. And it's only increasing and it's happening faster. And one of the companies out there that's tackling it is ConnectWise. And then ConnectWise is really one of the progenitors of managed services. It literally created the first real managed services community. It is one of the drivers that got resellers to adopt managed services using their software and it built an ecosystem that connected a lot of the applications that fed into managed services. And today, ConnectWise is moving again. It's evolving into a platform and an integrated platform that connects all the data sources and all the applications that MSPs are using under a single pane of glass to create a more seamless and cost-effective user experience. Then, I mean by user, I mean the MSPs are able to act more efficiently, and the AI that is coming with it that is also creating new opportunities to do more with less. It is a radical change, and it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to happen over a period of years, but it is available now, and it's continuing to evolve. So we invited Manny Rivelo, the CEO of ConnectWise, to come join us to talk about the evolution of platforms and AI and managed services. This is Changing Channels. I'm Larry Walsh. Let's get into it. Thanks for joining us here on Changing Channels.
Hey, Larry, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Oh, no, it's a real pleasure, a real treat to have you. Hey, look, I know we're here to talk about managed services, particularly because, as I said in the intro, there's a lot going on and it's in a state of flux. But before we get into that, talking about change, you underwent a bit of a change a couple of years ago. You joined ConnectWise in September 24. You're coming up on the end of your second year, and you're the CEO of ForcePoint, of security vendor, which is a lot different than what ConnectWise is. So, can we just start on what's it been like for the last 2 years at ConnectWise?
Yeah, no, look, it's been great. I kind of I volunteered for this tour of duty, if you will, right? Because I was super excited about working with the MSPs and the channel, and I have in the past, but mostly from the vendor side, supporting MSPs as part of the larger channel, if you will. Think about distribution and also having MSPs out there. Yeah, I spent a lot of time in security. Obviously, security is essential to everything we do with MSPs. Having services that are non-secure in today's world is just not at all something that you want to provide. So the change has been relatively simple. I mean, in the sense that we are delivering a platform and a platform that is a system of record, but truly that over the last year and a half, we've worked hard to make it a system of action, which we'll spend some more time talking about. It's no different than security. Security deliver platform. There's lots of different types of platforms, but the reality is because of the volume of security, you have to also make them systems of action, right? They have to be self-correcting, self-healing for organizations. And that's really been fairly similar. And then the other part that I would say that's been really interesting is working with the MSPs, and they come in all shapes and sizes, from very large MSPs to sometimes owner operators, smaller MSPs. It's been great because the community, the MSP community, is unique. right? In the sense that we make a lot of investments as a company supporting IT Nation, Evolve, lots of different things to make MSPs grow. And the real rewarding part for me is how MSPs help each other learn, how help each other transform. And in today's time, that's important.
Well, I'll tell you something is that I like what you're saying, and I want to give ConnectWise credit for a lot of the reason why that has happened. And ConnectWise, for those of you who don't know, I mean, ConnectWise is a fairly well-known company in managed services, but it essentially created between you and a couple of the other companies out there that are still kicking around, some not so much. It actually created this system of managed services, the community of managed service providers that are out there today. Um, and look, this is going back 20 years. And my first encounters with ConnectWise, back then it was a smaller company, but it had a large and growing network of MSPs. And today you have that great base, but managed services is changing and it's changing rapidly. And then I know we'll talk a bit more about some of the change agents and the catalysts for it. But what's your perspective in terms of what the managed services world looks like today and where it's going?
We are at an inflection, right? We're at a unique time in the sense that the MSPs have historically grown and the needs of the SMB have grown. So as a result of that, they have to adopt more and more technology to create those services. What started out as simple services eventually evolved into the cloud and cloud-based services, security, data backup, the list goes on and on. So the services have gotten more complex. And in the MSP's world, that has resulted in more tools, right? Them acquiring more tools, integrating those tools, which results in more human middleware, is like what I refer to people, labor to make those things work and to simplify those things to deliver the services to the SMB. And that is not a sustainable model. That is very people dependent. And the reality is that the end user wants an outcome. They want an immediate outcome. They are not there to buy a service. They're there to buy an outcome so they can run their business. And over the last couple of years, AI has emerged. AI is a catalyst for every business of all sizes in the world. As a matter of fact, it's a catalyst for every single individual in the way they do their work. So now we're in an inflection point. The MSPs need to transform themselves again, right? And they've done this in the past to become the advisors of AI to those SMBs so those SMBs can grow because AI is being thrusted on them. There's just it's coming through the tool sets, it's coming through the competitive pressures, it's coming for those end users, right? Who are demanding better, faster, quicker services. So the MSPs at that transition point, and AI is what they need to become. They have to become the confidence of that for those end users. They also need to leverage AI to improve the efficiency of their services, the turnaround of their services, which means a more efficient, more service consistency, more predictable in how they offer those services. So it is a transition and it's happening quite quick. Every other transition that MSPs had to adopt has taken a decade. Cloud took a decade. The internet took a decade, right? These things are much lower compared to what's going on with AI and the evolution of AI, which we're talking about it front to back, maybe on the long end, 5 years. So I think in 2 years, if you haven't adopted AI and you're an MSP and are not helping your end customers with AI, you're going to be facing some interesting challenges.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And one of the things that we're seeing at Channelnomics is MSPs are not just under pressure to adopt new technologies like AI and to create that fabric of capabilities that leverages the data better to facilitate those better outcomes you talked about. But they're also dealing with a lot of operational pressures. And I need to take a minute here to disclose to everyone is that Channelnomics, we are a service provider to the vendor community. We've worked with ConnectWise on analyzing some of their plans and some of the products that they're rolling out. But this is a result of that, knowing that the partners, the MSPs themselves, they're facing higher labor costs, higher training costs, higher licensing costs. And you layer in AI and the cost of burning through tokens on a daily basis, like they're throwing wood on fire. I mean, that's a lot, isn't it, Manny?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's an interesting time. And I think the concept of modernization of the MSP stack and how they run their business and the services they deliver is here. It's very easy to say I'm going to buy best of breed and I'm going to integrate it. The question is, at what value do you offer? when you're trying to run a much more efficient business. So what we're seeing in the community is also the desire to it's modernize, move to a platform, right? And the platform is much more than a simple SaaS stack. It's really for the concept of having richness of information. So then you can apply, meaning data. Then you can apply more AI capabilities on top of that to deliver faster, better, more efficient, if you will, comes to your end user. So we're seeing that right now in the market. It's a deep conversation, and the technology is now there to be able to start to do that. So what MSPs did over the last couple of decades, as they grew their portfolios and the tool sets, there's an opportunity to reinvent and rethink of what the future looks like. And the future is the next n number of decades, if you will, of value.
No, what is it that, I can't remember who said it, the future is, we don't know what the future is, but we know we're all going to live there,
Yeah,
so
well said. Well said.
yeah,
Well said.
but, you know, you did talk about this is about the tools. And this is, like I said, some of the pressure that we see MSPs under is that they've been built through, many of them have been built through calcification rather than strategic intent, meaning that, okay, they bring on a new customer, well, they bring on the tools that the customer was using. They go to a conference and they get wowed by another vendor. So now they have two vendors doing the same thing. And so this sprawl creates complexity, and complexity equals cost. And ConnectWise, your solution to all this, not just in terms of that consolidation of tools, but also the consolidation of the data, is to morph into a platform. So what's the thinking behind ConnectWise's platform, and what's the outcome that you're striving for?
Yeah, and I think you voiced it correctly. The MSP has lots of disconnected tools, creates silos as it pertains to data, as it pertains to workflows, and they address that through human labor, right? Our vision was if we can integrate the technology and the workflows into a common platform with a single set of data around that, we can begin to provide agentic and automation capabilities on top of that. Meaning being able to see the ticket information that's in our PSA and act on that information to increase the efficiency, right, of the outcome. So our vision has always been centralize more of that, more of those tools into a common platform. Think about what Salesforce has done as an example, right, in that market, or what ServiceNow has done in the
Mhm.
ITSM market, but then make it open. So third parties could also integrate into the tool set, right? So the concept is through simplification, create a better experience for that MSP, bring agentic into the capability, because at the foundation of it all is the data. And the data that matters is not what's on the web. The data that matters is the data that they have about their end customers. So there's a lot to be done there.
All right. So help me out with this, because the promise of managed services has always been like, we're going to monitor what you have. We're going to manage it for you. We're going to look at the telemetry coming back from these devices, or in some cases applications, and we're going to anticipate. I mean, this was something we've been talking about for 10, 20 years, is that the managed services isn't reactive, it's proactive. It is there to anticipate, or even tell you, fix things before you even know there's something wrong. Now, what you're describing sounds a lot like that still. So what makes now different besides the AI component? Is it
Uh,
that level of integration?
yeah, it's a level of integration, but I'd argue that the reality of today is that the MSP, and this is not uniform. Some of them are a little bit more advanced, and there's different levels of maturity, is more reactive, right? More based on tickets that are coming in from their end customers, and then they're trying to resolve them very quickly. And part of that is the average individual sitting at an MSP is sitting around lots of different screens, right? From that, lots of different tools they need to manage with alerts kicking up. Some of those are false positives, some of them are not. So how do you triage through that, and how you get to that to deliver a better service? What's changed is when you integrate all of that and you have all that data in one place with AI capabilities and automation capabilities, you could become more proactive in the way you do that. And I believe in our part of our vision is if you wind this thing forward, the agent technology that's being created, the agentic capabilities get to a point where it becomes much more predictive what's going on that endpoint. we will have agents sitting on that endpoint that will monitor the services that you procured. And if those services are print services, whatever the service may be, that agent can make sure they're all running. And if they're not running, can proactively fix them, open up the ticket, close the ticket without you, Larry, ever even knowing. In a way, IT has the capability through agentic to become much more invisible. And I truly believe that so that the issues can be proactively resolved. So when we look at our platform, we're looking at a place that we have all of that information available to us, and we can then help you deliver those services in a much more invisible fashion. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't have your hero reports to show your end customer what you're doing, right? And
Right.
the value you're offering them, but it means less outages for that end user, more consistent service delivery, and differentiation. And that is the possibility of marrying a platform with the ecosystem with the agentic capabilities built into it.
And ConnectWise recently made an acquisition that's also really not just making this possible, but actually expediting the ability for MSPs to capitalize on AI. Why don't you talk a little bit about that, Manny? Because it's a really interesting story.
Yeah, we were looking, we've been building AI agentic capabilities inside our platform and automation capabilities, but we were also looking at the market to see if there was a technology that could propel us forward even faster. And we looked, Larry, at a lot of companies. Like I said, we kissed a lot of frogs and we finally found a prince, right? And that prince is a small company, Zofik, out of Toronto, who was getting some traction with our PSA in a joint customer base. And we talked to many partners, and those partners really liked the solution. What it basically is, it's an agentic small language model type of technology that reads your ticket information. And by reading your ticket, ingests your ticket information. By ingesting your ticket information, can build agents to do different things. Because remember, in your ticket information, not only you have how the ticket opened, but you have how you resolve the ticket and you have the documentation. So once we start defining that pattern, if you fit into that pattern, we could tee up for you that information, which helps a level one technician resolve that ticket quicker. So not only do we see the ticket, we can see the sentiment of the ticket, we can see how to resolve the ticket, we can put it right on the right board, right, for the technician to dispatch that ticket, and that saves an immense amount of time. So that's just one of many use cases. So what you'll see we'll do with that technology is we will continue to build agents that will be solving different types of challenges for the organization and augmenting the individuals at an MSP, and over time making IT much more invisible, right? So it was a great catalyst. We brought it on board. We're really pleased with the progress that we've made with it. We're really pleased with the adoption by the community. And you're starting to see that is central to most conversations today. So they want to deploy this capability, but it goes back to where are you in your modernization? Can you deploy this capability? Is it an overlay, or is it native to the way you want to build your stack so that you can get value over many years? If you continue to bolt it on and it's not native to the stack, you may be limited with what you could do over time. So our vision has been to embed it into the stack natively, and that's what we've been working hard to deliver.
So you've used a word a couple of times, and I want to press you on this because there is a downside to some of what you're talking about when you talk about invisible. And I know what you mean by it is that it's transparent, that the customer doesn't have to worry, the customer can focus on the things they need to do. And look, I haven't met a non-tech business, a non-tech business owner that wakes up in the morning worrying about their technology. They worry about healthcare. They worry about selling cars or, food delivery and food services. They don't worry about the IT. The IT is a part of the fabric that works their operations. But there's a downside to that, and that is that if they don't see somebody turning the screws and the dials, then they may assume that there's nothing going on there. How do we continue, or how do MSPs continue to demonstrate that they're doing something when, even when they're doing things proactively where the customer doesn't even know that there was a problem to begin with?
It's a great question. And that's where I refer to these kind of hero reports. I'll give you an example that we're doing today in our managed service offerings for our SOC. We see lots of EDR incidents coming in, and we triage those incidents, actually leveraging for level one and most of level two agentic capabilities. And with every single one, you guarantee a 15-minute SLA. By the way, we're delivering that usually in about 7 to 8 minutes. And with it goes a report, exactly what the incident was, everything about the incident, including the resolution, if there was a resolution implemented. And that's all being done in, like I said, 8 to 9 minutes on every single incident. Now, not every customer wants these incident reports. Sometimes they want them queued up and sent as one master report and all of that. But yeah, there's still the need to turn around and fix things much quicker to prevent whatever the situation was. But you have to take the time to show proof of value, right? So we're doing that, and that's been incredibly well received. So you cannot just take care of it and make it so invisible that they don't know what they're getting, right? You still have to be able to demonstrate that value. The value is demonstrated differently because now the value is demonstrated on, hey, you used to do 1,000 tickets a month. Now you're doing still 1,000, but you think you're doing 5, right?
Yeah.
That's huge value to the point you made. If I'm a healthcare provider, I care about providing great healthcare. So that's the balance that will help MSPs through those reports and dashboards and things that they could demonstrate back to their end customers. But it's a different conversation. It isn't the problems don't occur. We still fat finger stuff. We still misconfigure stuff. We still forget our passport. We still, jam up the printers and all that kind of stuff. That ain't going to change. Humans are doing that, but the technology can help facilitate that. You just don't need to be involved in it.
You know, I I want to say that everybody's on board with this vision. And when I say the vision it's about leveraging AI, it's to the point of where every conversation has AI is attached to it. And it's almost, like I said, it's almost to the point of where it's almost boring. Like, oh God, we're going to talk about AI again. And it's not that I would ever dispute the value or the need to do something. But one of the things we do find is that MSPs, resellers, integrators, doesn't matter which one you want to call them, they're washed in suggestions or offers or the frantic call to, get on board now or you're going to miss out on different ways of leveraging AI. How do we, we as an industry, or particularly at ConnectWise, how do you get them focused to say, this is where you want to place your efforts today because it will have a demonstrable payout 2 to 3 years from now?
Yeah, we think there's a journey, right? We believe in a journey. It's got about 5 phases into the journey, and it starts with just operationalizing AI into your organization. That's where you introduce things like co-pilots, right? Things that you can ask questions, like, tell me what my case volume looks like today, and it gives you back that information. And that evolves to this concept of extending the workforce. And when you think about extending the workforce, is now I have AI doing certain things for me. It's dispatching the tickets more appropriately. You start to embed AI into that. And eventually you get to the next phase, which was you're supervising AI, right? And then the supervision of AI, it comes in 2 flavors: AI supervising AI, humans supervising AI. So you get to the point now you're much more efficient, right? The level one, level two work is being done by agents. Your individuals start to move up the stack to do higher level work or different work inside an organization, which leads to this concept of autonomous operations, right? Your business is now, AI is resolving the problems, is being much more involved, which eventually leads to the final stage, which is what we are calling predictive intelligence. So think about now your AI capabilities are predicting outcomes finally because you're so embedded in the workflows, you're so embedded in the systems, and you have this concept of invisible IT operating to prevent things from happening, or if they do happen, solve them before the end user notices those things are happening, right? Continue to condense the time. So that journey, and from my opinion, is from here to 2030. It's that fast.
Yeah.
And when I look at our roadmaps, it's even shorter than that, right? So MSPs have the capability to transform that, but it starts out with having the right stack. If you don't have the right stack of technology, you're going to limit that capability or have to do other integrations. So it comes down to what's the best approach to get there so you deliver the best service, right, to your end users possible.
So, Manny, I want to ask you one thing before we start closing this out. You talked about the ConnectWise platform as being open, and again, another hallmark of ConnectWise's value proposition is that you have your products, but you're also open to integration to third-party products and your technology alliance partners. What is it that they need to do, in to capitalize on this opportunity of this AI-enabled managed services platform? Is anything changing for them?
Now, look, the ecosystem and the ISP ecosystem is massively valuable. That does not go away by any means because there's a lot of specialization by that ecosystem, and they do different things that offer value, right? And differentiation for an MSP in the way that they deliver their services. Our integration with that ecosystem offers two things. What we're trying to do is standardize the delivery, right? So you get scale, so you get efficiency. What they bring to the equation is the differentiation that could offer to the market. So you get a benefit from both. So we will continue to have an open set of APIs, an open set of agentic capabilities, right, with the ISVs, so that a partner isn't tied to who they want to use for EDR. If they want to use a CrowdStrike or a SentinelOne or a Microsoft, that capability is there. They all offer merit. They all offer differentiation inside that, right? But what we care about is maybe the layering the managed environment on top of that to make it easy with those hero reports that I spoke about before. So we're always going to offer that. There will be differentiation that comes from the ISVs, and we will offer standardization so that the MSP could run the business much more efficiently and deliver better service, right, to their end customers. That's the concept. That doesn't change whatsoever. And I think if we work well together and interface well together and make sure that the data is bi-directional where it needs to be bi-directional, we can then offer agentic capabilities, taking humans out of that loop, right? Or you could keep the human in the loop, but get the work done faster. And that's what will progress over time. So yeah, the ecosystems are important. We're not going to build a God box that's going to solve every problem in the world. We're going to stay true to our knitting and bring the ISV community forward and open that capability because the partners also want it.
Yeah. So I want to just say is that Channelnomics has worked with ConnectWise on an earlier version of their platform. We did the economic impact work on it, and I can attest to it. The numbers, bear out. Working with the partners, understanding what their businesses look like, and the impact these AI capabilities, the platform capabilities have. It has a real demonstrable return in terms not just in their productivity, but their profitability and their cost structures. And I see a real future here, Manny. But I'm going to give you the last word on that. We've referenced this next 3 to 5 years, 2030 being on the horizon. What does the managed services segment look like in 5 years? Is it going to be radically different from what we see today, or are we going to continue to see this iteration of AI capabilities that are just going to continue to bring more improvements, more capabilities?
Yeah, I'll give you some data, Larry. And obviously would like you to review it because I've done my own analysis on this, and I'm in the process of finalizing some documentation in the company. I'll publish it. What we see in this evolution, and you take an MSP who's approximately $3 million worth of managed service revenue. Let's say they could be higher in revenue, but $3 million of managed service revenue. And we've gone back and looked at our SLI data, all the financial data we have for MSPs with large sample sizes associated that, how many tickets they have, what the cost per ticket is, gross margins, you name it. And what we see from a return is we see ROIs 2 to 4 times for that MSP. We see them scaling ticket reduction 30 to 50%, right? We see margin uplifts of 8 to 15 points, depending on the MSP, right? Just for that class. And we see incremental revenue opportunities on a $3 million base of over $1 million, right? By leveraging the agentic capabilities. And this is just simple calculations, right, of true math and return on what it can be offered based on growth, based on people, which is the highest expense, if you will, and how you use agentic capabilities. So it's really drives economic impact for that MSP. But more importantly than that, it also offers better service delivery, right? Because agents don't get sick, right? AI agents or agentic autonomous, they'll get sick. They work 7 by 24, and they're very proactive in resolving certain issues that you may have as an organization. So the capabilities of how you differentiate are also there, which also creates more revenue opportunity for those MSPs. So there's an evolution here, right? It's
Yeah.
not going to happen overnight. But MSPs and the history that I've studied and what I've observed since I've been here are used to transformation, right? There's always fear and there's always this concern, is this a fad or not? I could tell you we're seeing MSPs realize some of these benefits already, right? And inside that. So they're the early movers. The technology continues to standardize, gets simpler, more adopted, and the rest will come, right? But it's time for every single MSP to look at AI in the face and understand that it's going to be part, right, of what they do to improve their efficiency and help their partners implement AI, right? Meaning their end customers implement AI. That you
Mm.
can't walk away from that. This trend is real. This is not a fad.
And I think that's a good place for us to end because I couldn't agree with you more. There's really not much more to say about it, only things to do about it, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly it, Larry.
Yeah. Manny Rivelo, thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you here today talking about what you're doing at ConnectWise.
Thank you, Larry. Always appreciate it.
Well, that's about all the time we have for this edition of Changing Channels. Again, I want to thank our guest, Manny Rivelo, the CEO of ConnectWise, for joining us to talk about the evolution of platforms in AI and managed services and what it's going to mean to the market. Great conversation. Share with as many people as you can. In fact, if you like what we're doing here at Channelnomics, please hit like, hit subscribe, tell your friends. It really helps us out. We do Changing Channels to share knowledge and experience with everyone to help make the channel perform better for all the companies in it. While you're at it, please go to Channelnomics, check out our best practices, our services, and all the other great information we had there. Again, all in the vein of making the channel better. Until next time, I'm Larry Walsh.